Today, we're going to sharkify some Indomitus. Hi guys, Jonathan from Two Rain Studios. If you're new here, welcome. Please subscribe. We have new videos every week. So what I'm gonna do today is a little bit different. I've been doing a lot of paintings for commissions and that sort of stuff, and I wanted a break from painting, so I decided to do some converting. So that's what today's topic is going to be, converting models. Specifically, I am going to take the Judiciar, however you say it, from the Indomitus box and make it fit my Carcharodons Space Marine army. So we're going to sharkify it a little bit and just change things up to make it fit my army a little bit better. So I'm going to take you through the process of how to convert a plastic miniature, my thought process behind it, and what we're going to do. So let's hop right in, take a look at the miniature, and get started. So here we have the pieces of the Judiciar. We have the two parts of the body, sword arm, the head, the backpack, and the two parts of the other arm. So we want to make them look a little bit more sharky. The first thing I'm going to do is, I don't really like this head, we're going to get rid of it. The Carcharodons normally use older marks of armor, so we're just going to do something simple, and we're going to replace it with a Mark III head. So, old head's gone, Mark III head. Next thing is the Executioner blade. There's nothing in the rules that says it has to be a regular sword like this, and the Sharky boys like to use chain weapons. So we're going to make a really big chain sword to replace that. That's going to be our first step. So I have these chain swords. They're also from the Mark III kit, and what we're going to do is just cut some up to kind of create the length we want to replace this blade. So I'm going to start by cleaning off the mold lines of the piece, and then we're just going to cut the handle right off at the bottom. So we have that piece, and we'll clean it up. You can see I've already cut one piece off. And then I'm just going to line the two pieces up. It's a little bit too short for what I want for the sword, so we need one more piece. So I'm going to cut the front end of this one off to butt up to the other ones. You can kind of see I left a little part of the back blade in that middle piece. I went back and cut that out later because I didn't like the way it looked, but I thought it would be cool originally. But we have about the right length now. So what I'm going to do now is just take a file with a flat edge and try to clean the edges up and get a smooth finish. So this might take you a couple times trials. You can use the knife, you can use the file, just to get you a nice flat edge where the two pieces butt up nice and smoothly. Once that's done, we'll just grab some plastic glue. It's important to use plastic glue because we want to melt these two parts together so there's a stronger bond than super glue would give us. Next up, I'm going to work on the helmet. I want to give it a little bit of a crest. So this is a horsehair crest from the Mark III kit. I don't want the horsehair on it. I'm going to cut off. I just want a little metal fin on the top, kind of like Char has on the cover of the Outer Dark novel. I believe that's the name of that novel. And sorry if my white balance is a little messed up there. Forgot to turn the auto white balance off on the camera. And you can see here I'm just using files, my sanding sticks, everything at my disposal just to get it to kind of smooth. But now what I want to do is kind of form it to the helmet a little bit more. So I'm going to cut the back end of it off. See, that's what I'm doing right here. We're cutting the back end off. And now it's kind of got the right angle. I'm going to take out a round file this time, and we're going to try to sand it to shape the curve of the top of the helmet. And that's totally the same piece glued on. It's not like I dropped it and had to totally redo everything. So at this point, the two parts of the sword that we glued together should be stuck pretty well, so we'll just glue the third part on now. So what I'm going to do now is just glue the arm to the body, which I already cut the original blade off that arm off camera, and we're just going to glue that front and back half of the body together with that arm, so we can kind of get an idea of what we want to do in the next step. Just squeezing all that together. and we have the body together. What I want to do is add that shoulder pad in. We have to make this work a little bit. So first thing we're going to do is to try to get this sword to fit on there. So we want to file out where that skull bump is to fit the chainsword that we made. So round file, round shape. We're just going to take the file and try to cut a groove into the kind of mechanical part of the sword so it'll fit right over top the skull on the hilt that is attached to the hands. This might take a few back and forths to get the exact right shape you're looking for, but just take your time with it. Keep checking against the piece to make sure that you have the fit you want. You can kind of see now it lays in there pretty decently against the hilt of the sword. But now we have the problem of the shoulder pad, because once the shoulder pad's on, the sword does not lay right. So we're going to have to fix that problem. It's probably why this miniature originally didn't have a shoulder pad on the side, but I don't like the look of not having that shoulder pad. I want to put this studded one on here. So you can kind of see the angle is just not right. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut off part of the blade on the bottom, just to try to hopefully that will give us more clearance so it fits with the shoulder pad on the miniature. But we're still a little off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut part of the shoulder pad off the miniature, and I also sanded out the inside of that pad itself a little bit, so the pad is going to sit a little bit lower on the shoulder to give us more clearance. So I think that's about as low as we're going to get it without destroying the look of the miniature. So let's glue that in there. A little bit of plastic glue, like I said. Plastic glue is good for this because it fuses the different pieces together. So our sword still doesn't fit. We're going to have to work on that. So what I'm going to do is just, again, we're taking the back side and I'm just cutting it a little bit flat, so hopefully it lies flatter against that shoulder pad. We're removing detail here, but it's going to be against the shoulder pad, so you're not going to see it. Still doesn't fit. So we're going to, again, now we're going to cut the detail off the shoulder pad itself. We're going to cut a little bit of a flat spot here that blade can sit on. I cut off the one stud, cut down, and now that's looking pretty good. So let's glue that right into place. The head does not kind of sitting down how I want it, so I'm just going to cut a little bit off the bottom of that head so it sits better in the neck cavity. Just trimming down the lower part that you're not going to see. It's going to be covered by the collar anyway. And we'll just glue the head on. And what I'm doing here is I'm kind of readjusting that arm. I'm going to do it a little bit more here once I get the backpack on. See how it's sitting up a little bit too high? I'm just readjusting the arm so that blade lays across the backpack better. And that looks pretty good. Pretty happy with how that's looking. So next we're going to have to move on to fixing the left hand, because I don't like that hourglass for the theme of my army. So I had a couple ideas how to replace it. First one was this bit, which is from an Idneth Deepkin model. So figuring I could turn this into some kind of fishy looking lantern. So I pulled it up against the model. I'm not too keen on the way that looks. Let's try something else. So my second idea, I have these bits from the Bone Splitters Orcs box. They're just pieces of jawbone. So I'm thinking maybe I could have them holding some kind of jaw of a predator here instead of that hourglass. So something kind of like that. I'm kind of liking the look of that. So let's go with these pieces instead. So I want them on top of each other, so we're going to have to sand some parts smooth so we can get them to overlap like that. So just taking the file, just sand a little flat part on the front of the one and the back of the other. And that should give us a nice contact point for the two pieces to glue together. Again, we're using plastic glue to weld them together. And I like the look of that. So all I did was I cut off the hourglass from the chain, and we're going to glue this right in its place. I'm going to leave that other little metal doodad thing hanging there too. We'll just glue that right into the hand. The plastic glue will weld those pieces nicely, and we'll have a solid piece. So yeah, I like the way that looks. So next thing we have to deal with is all the little gaps from the pieces we put together. So you can kind of see along the robe and the parts of the chainsword we put together. You could use green stuff for this, but that is not my preferred putty. I like milliput because you can kind of melts and it dries super hard and you can sand it. So it's just a two-part epoxy. You're just going to mix the two parts together, equal parts. I also have some isopropyl alcohol because it's going to help kind of make the putty melt a little bit and really fill those gaps. I'm going to use this clay shaper to put the putty where I want it and form it in the gaps. So all we do is we get a little bit of the mixed putty. We're going to put it, see that gap at the bottom of the robe, we'll just stick a little bit on there. I'm going to dip my tool into the isopropyl alcohol and just kind of form it right down in there. The isopropyl alcohol really makes it to start kind of turning into a paste. Little extra bits you can put in other parts that need it, if you have any extra. And we're just kind of trying to make it form the surface. Looks pretty good. I'm going to get a little bit more isopropyl alcohol and really kind of form it down to smooth it into the surface. Just continue this around the whole model. Next, let's move on to the base. So what I'm going to do is, this is a little bit of plastic hard tile. I'm just going to break this up and put some tiles on the base with it. So it snaps nice and easy because it's scored. Stick that right under his foot like that. I just have him up a little bit from the base. Glue that right on. Do that there. Get another little bit to cover the hole that's on the base. Kind of make it look like kind of like a broken tile floor. Next up, we're going to put some dirt on the base. So this is a mixture of play sand and dirt from my backyard. It's my go-to for basing. All I'm going to do is with a little watered down PVA glue, cover the base. So I have a couple different bottles of PVA that I've watered down in different consistencies. So this one's watered down just a little bit. I'll just get a little piece of plastic card here, just spread it around all the areas that don't have the tile on it. And once that's done, and I'm happy with it everywhere on the base, we're just gonna dip the base into that little tub of the sand and dirt mixture. Which again, just dirt from my backyard mixed with some sand. I don't really buy basing material. Nice and easy. Get the sand covered and tap off the excess. Now the milliput should be dry. We're going to go back with the sanding stick and just make sure that it's nice and smooth by sanding all those parts out flat, and we'll make those seams just disappear. We're just going to move around the miniature, sanding all the milliput. And for our final step here, what I'm going to do is I want to make sure that dirt does not come off the base. So I'm putting a little bit of isopropyl alcohol, which is going to help the next step. It's going to help the glue flow down in the base. So once it's kind of soaked in with the iso, you can kind of tell when it's in there, it gets nice and dark. I'm going to take this bottle of glue, which is really thin down PVA glue. It's much thinner than the other mix I had. You're going to see in a second as I pour it out. And we're just going to run that all over the base. We'll clean that up later. So here's the finished model, nice and primed. You can kind of see most of the gaps are pretty seamless. It looks like the original model, and I like it much better for the fit of my army than the way the model originally looked. Just a little creativity and clever use of bits, you can make a model really be your own. So I hope you guys found that useful. If you'd like to see me paint this miniature in a future video, let me know in the comments below, because I'm definitely going to paint it. Might as well film it as I'm doing it. It's going to be a little while though. I have some commissions, as I said, I'm working on, so I need to finish painting other people's miniatures before I start painting my own. But it'll be eventually. I'm going to be doing all the stuff from this Indominus box. So the Space Marines will be mostly for my Space Shark army, my Carcharodons. And I have some cool things that I have planned for the Necrons, and there'll be some upcoming videos on that. Make sure you don't miss out on any of that stuff. Click here to subscribe. I'm also going to leave some videos over here. I'm going to link to my other Carcharodon painting video I already did, and something YouTube thinks you're going to like. So you check those out. Until next time, keep on gaming and paint your minis.